Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and something that I talk about a lot on this channel is how completely devoid of creativity modern day Hollywood is. And the big comeback to that is the fact that, oh, original movies, they're a financial risk. They're not as good as the endless sequels, remakes, reboots that prove the lack of creativity in Hollywood. Well, that is provably false for a myriad of reasons. No less so than Hollywood has been built on original ideas, that these franchises that you're making sequels, remakes, and reboots of, they were original ideas at one point in time, and they became the massive successes that they are today. You can do that again. Make something original. If you don't like the current state of Doctor Who, make something just as good as it instead of co-opting it. So those are the only options that Hollywood has these days, is reboots, sequels, remakes, and co-opting of old franchises with modern ideals. None of those show any iota of creativity whatsoever. And the other point that proves this as definably false with the financial viability of original movies is the fact that you don't need these astronomical budgets for movies in the modern day, from $200 to $300 million in the case of Indiana Jones. Reportedly, that is way bigger than is necessary, especially considering the poor CGI that accompanies these massive budget movies. These new Marvel movies that have between $200 and $300 million budgets, they look like garbage from a CGI perspective. Ant-Man and the Wasp 3 and Thor Love and Thunder being the worst offenders in this category. Back in the day, even with inflation taken into account, movies with much smaller budgets looked so much better than they do in the modern day. CGI is at its worst. Now, there are a lot of factors taken into account with that, with how they're treating their CGI artists in the modern day, but with as much money as they had, I'm sure they could afford to do things a lot better than they are currently. So original movies, this idea of them not being financially viable is not factual if anyone at these studios had any sort of creativity or business acumen whatsoever. But the bigger thing is, that lie of financial viability is protecting the truth that they don't have creativity, that it's easy, that they're being lazy with these reboots, sequels, remakes, and co-opting of old franchises. And we have a whole slew of new sequels planned and remakes planned coming up in the future that were announced in close succession from each other, and they're all just as completely creative bankrupt as all these other projects coming out of Hollywood in the recent years. We have How to Train Your Dragon is getting a live action movie. We don't need a live action version of really any animated movie, in my opinion, especially the classics. If you took like a movie that wasn't a classic, that's built on a good idea, all right, you'd have an argument for a remake there to try to fix some of the mistakes made in the original animated movie. But when it's a classic like How to Train Your Dragon or the Disney classics, there is nothing to be gained from a live action remake whatsoever. This is just, oh, what's a property that we own? Oh, I guess we own How to Train Your Dragon. Yeah, slap a script together and make it, and people come to do it because of nostalgia. Nostalgia is fast waning at the box office. It is no longer the powerhouse that it used to be, and these franchises that are doing endless sequels, for example, can't keep up the momentum that they've had for years. Just look at the box office for the recent Marvel movies. They're still part of Marvel. They should be the juggernauts of juggernauts, but when you take into account inflation, 40% less people went to see Black Panther 2 than the original Black Panther movie. That is near half of your audience is gone. And no matter nostalgia, or in the case of Black Panther, baiting the true trauma and the true tragedy of Chadwick Boseman's death as a reason to get people into theaters, that wasn't enough to get 40% of the audience back from the original movie. As much as inflation is covering up the current problems in Hollywood, it will not be enough to cover it up in the future as things continue to be in decline, as even normies are getting fed up with nostalgia. So live action How to Train Your Dragon, it's hard to improve on that movie because that's a really, really good movie that I love. You're not going to gain anything from it, and nostalgia probably won't be enough to get people into theaters when this comes out in 2025 or 2026. These things are so far in the future that it's absolutely ridiculous. Devoid of creativity. And then, what's popular right now? As much as I don't like Last of Us is really popular right now. So everyone's looking, hey, do we have any zombie franchises that we can pick up off the success of Last of Us? Well, it looks like the people who own I Am Legend are like, ooh, we have zombies, let's do it. And we're getting an I Am Legend 2, which is ridiculous considering the ending of that movie, but they're going to fix it. They're going to use the alternate ending where Will Smith survived. And that is definitely the inferior version of the movie, in my personal opinion. It makes way more sense from a narrative standpoint, and more so to explain the title if Will Smith dies at the end of that movie. He's not a legend if he survives. It's just weird with that ending. But, well, we're capitalizing off zombies. They're popular right now. Not creativity. No creativity in this example whatsoever. And Michael B. Jordan's in it. Yay. Yeah, his Creed movies, not exactly all that creative to begin with, and just a reboot slash sequel to the Rocky movies. Not a whole lot of meat there whatsoever, so not really interested in that movie at all. And they even confirm that is 100% inspired by The Last of Us, so that's not just me doing hyperbole for current day popular zombie show. They straight up admit, oh, popular thing is popular right now, what can we imitate that with? And I Am Legend is a great movie in my opinion. I love the original I Am Legend. I don't want to see it continue because the story ended, and especially when it's built off of these poor motivations as imitating The Last of Us and cheap, oh, we've got a sequel so we don't have to think so hard about making a new original idea. It's not going to turn out good, in my opinion, with those motivating factors being the core of the issue with this upcoming movie. And we're not even done yet. We got Constantine 2 coming down the pipeline. Oh my god, isn't that so exciting? That B movie that was kind of alright, it was whatever. Tilda Swinton was good in it, and Keanu Reeves is always good, but the script wasn't so good. We totally want more of that, don't we? Yay! Again, another sequel. And Keanu Reeves is popular right now again because of the John Wick movie. Let's look at what we have that we own that Keanu Reeves would be involved in. They did it with Matrix 4. Keanu Reeves was popular again. Let's do another Matrix. And they're doing the same thing here with Constantine. And yes, the bigger problem with it, besides the fact that they're making a creatively bankrupt sequel, is the fact that Akiva Goldsmith is involved. And yes, he was involved in the original and he did some good movies back in the day, but his recent resume has been filled with the other desecration that Paramount has done against Star Trek. He is no longer the writer that he used to be, and I'm not looking forward to anything that comes out of him because he is a hack writer now after the abomination he perpetuated against Star Trek. So I have no doubt that this Constantine sequel will be filled of the same propaganda that modern Star Trek is, and I'm not looking forward to it. So again, another co-opting of an original franchise. And that's all that these people can seem to do, because back when Constantine came out, superhero movies, comic book movies, yes, they were starting up, but it was a very difficult time for them and a very iffy time for them. As many as were good in that era, the same amount were bad in that era. So it was still a risky, while not original idea, still risky and contained some creativity in it. That cannot be said to be the case here because of the political propaganda that Akiva Goldsmith is bringing to the table, and the Keanu Reeves is popular, so let's find out what's popular. And we have a final sequel that was announced in quick succession with all these other ones, and it's one that really doesn't need a sequel as well. None of these that I have said need a sequel, need a remake, need a reboot, and 99% of the time for modern Hollywood, none of these reboots, sequels, or remakes need to be made whatsoever. Prequels as well, didn't mention those. Prequels are pretty ridiculous as well. But this one that I'm referring to is Twister. We're getting a Twister 2 coming out next year. We're getting a Twister. We don't need another Twister movie, especially without Bill. We don't need it. Why would we need another Twister movie? It was a fun little apocalyptic environmental movie, and it was just kind of its deal, and we had some fun with it. But there's no narrative meat to continue the story. If you want to make a tornado movie, fine, make a tornado movie. But slapping it on as a Twister sequel makes it seem, once again, capitalizing off of nostalgia for laziness and the lack of creativity's sake. Hollywood is completely devoid of creativity. I want some original movies. Even if it's poorly made and poorly written, I'd much rather see a failed original movie than another failed sequel, reboot, remake, or prequel. I'm sick and tired of them. Hollywood used to be a bastion of intelligence, creativity, and God, amazing writing back in the day. I love the 80s when it comes to their movies. 80s was top tier when it came to the writing of their movies. And it was original movie after original movie after original movie. And that was, in my opinion, one of the golden ages of Hollywood, besides the original, of course. We can't get back to that era of Hollywood actually meaning something, at the name Hollywood actually having a positive connotation, as long as Hollywood is obsessed with their woke propaganda, their co-opting of old franchises, and these constant, creatively devoid reboots, sequels, remakes, prequels, and everything under the sun that falls into that category. Hollywood is not a creative institution anymore. It is a propaganda institution made to churn out as much money and capitalize off nostalgia as much as possible till the well runs dry. Original movies keep the cycle going and make it so that Hollywood can make money in the future. Hollywood is so business stupid at this point that they're running the well dry to such a point that Hollywood may not exist in the coming decades. They need to keep oiling and greasing the wheels of Hollywood so it continues into the future. They are spelling their own doom because of how lazy and completely devoid of creativity that they are. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon.
Hey, yo, are you feeling what I'm doing up in here? Oh, I know you are. Do you miss all the good, compelling stories that we used to get back in Hollywood that they ain't putting down no more? Oh, I know you missing it. So check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues, baby. Book 1, Down in Flames. Book 2, Apocalypse Then. These are currently on sale. What are you waiting for? Get your hands on them. And we got Book 3, Kill the Dark, is coming down the pipeline. Just wait for all the good stuff that's dropping. You ain't gonna be disappointed, fam.